Morena tātou, we'll start this here with Karakia. Whaia, 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 whaia ki te uri kapanui o tāni. Tāni te wānanga, tāni te pukenga, tāni te waiora, tāni te tokarangi. Puta ki te whaiao, ki te ao marama, tuti nana, tuti mana, te tuhi te rarama, e noho te matara nei. Kia tina, homi e, hui e, tai ki e. Right, apologies, we've got an apology from Councillor Robinson.
Foster.
Hang on, they're doing remote. Well, I've got a note here that says Rawini, Aubrey and Larry will be online.
No.
Nothing else.
I've got an email from Councillor saying he would be attending remote.
I'll text them.
So, you text Aubrey, Annie? Thank you. And we'll proceed and we'll deal with that a little bit later if there's different information to them being online. So, as online, their apologies for lateness. All right, any declarations of interest? Nothing there. Get to the confirmation of the non-confidential minutes. Page 5.
Oh, yes, come on. Yeah. I'm happy to move the minutes.
Okay, Ms. Coles, seconded by Councillor Gregory. Any matters arising? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Go to the action register. Any matters on the action register? Nothing there. Councillor
It's just
Gregory.
that there's no dates on a lot of those actions that are coming up, and also the toilet one at the start says that it's completed, but it's not coming here till August. And it is, you're right. It's August.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
I don't believe
August today.
I don't believe you've seen this.
Right, that's fine. Going on to the government work plan, you will notice on the government's work plan there is another key reports update there. I've been advised that there's still information coming in on that, so it's still a work in progress, but it will be at the next meeting. Anything else from the government's work plan?
So when is that public, the Peel Street toilet thing?
From the action plan or from the government work plan?
It's on the action register, or the due date of tomorrow.
Am I on the right agenda?
That's the answer.
It's not infrastructure, it's environment and
10, page 10.
Yes.
Okay.
Through the chair, that's the answer underneath the comment.
Taken.
Action taken. That's a response to the action.
Oh, I see. It's not the actual paper that's coming.
yeah, it was just one.
Okay, cool, thank you. Sorry.
Nails.
Okay.
Sorry, just an update, Rawini is connecting and Aubrey's having trouble, but she'll keep trying. She's tried to join 5 times now.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on. No leave of absence there. Acknowledgments and tributes. I'd just like to put a tribute out for the family of Mr. Croswell. It's, I don't know any details of it, and I don't need to know any details. I don't want to know the details. It's just that we do need to put a tribute out to a very sad family at the moment. I'd just like to tribute. Thank you. Public input and petitions, nothing in there. No notice of motion and no new business. So go to our first report, which is director on the role, council role regarding non-municipal storage. And that's page 16.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, councillors. We do have Amanda Lumley online as well, who's been supporting us with the water security, water resilience programme. So it seems somewhat ironic to be talking about water security on a day like today, but we need to plan for the dry years as well as the wet times. This is a topic that we have been discussing with Council for some time now. Water security, water resilience, that balance between supply and demand. As you know, our role in terms of both municipal water supply and the regulatory and planning space in terms of fresh water is fairly well understood and articulated in legislation and various other documents. The question that we're asking you today to consider is what your role is in terms of non-municipal water supply, so that is things like irrigation. And there are some options set out on page 30 of the paper, and we are asking council to select what their preferred option is in terms of your role in non-municipal water supply. And there's a range of options set out. I'll go to page 30, and we have, you know, what our staff's preferred option is, but obviously it's entirely up to you to choose something different if you so wish.
And to be clear, the option is around investigation,
It's
not
about,
around actual...
yeah, it's supporting, leading on the early stage investigations like we have already done in terms of managed aquifer recharge. So that's an example of what that early stage investigation can look like, but not going so far as to actually set up and start operating a non-municipal water supply entity.
It does come down to water usage. I know something that does come up from time to time is the changing nature of water requirements based on new crops and that. Is there any thought given, just thought about the appropriateness of changing land use for more highly water requiring product?
Through you, your chair, yes, that is something that we do turn our minds to, and that efficiency of water use is something that gets considered, but it's quite difficult to actually go down to that very granular level of controlling what crop people can grow. We have abilities to put zones in place and land use controls, but not down to the level.
I support us taking a direct role in leading this. I agree with what is in this paper that we are in a position to be the early leader, and there will be different inputs from different sector, from industry, from iwi, from everyone having this discussion, but I think it does sit with us to take that initial leadership. So I'm very happy to move the proposed option 5.
Thank you. Do we have thoughts?
Second that, thank you.
Any further discussion? Councillor Party.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I too support the paper in option 5. I also thought that I like the phrasing as well around non-municipal storage, because a conversation that we've had lots in the region, also that our community has had with the likes of myself and Councillor Pahuru is actually around water tank storage on people's own homes, which is also non-municipal. And I mean, this paper doesn't speak to that, but I definitely think there's a very strong strategic alignment, especially on days like today, when there's all of this water pouring out of the sky, and then in the times when we actually need it, there's nothing coming out of the sky. And that's from a homeowner basis. It also kind of makes us more resilient, more sustainable as a region, if we're able to kind of play our role in regards to that. So really supportive of the paper for that, for all of these reasons in the paper and all of the kind of commercial things that have been alluded to, but also for the practical for our community.
Thanks for that. Councillor Telfer.
Yeah, look, I think it's pretty important council to have the lead role. There's a lot of information sitting here already to do with catchments in different areas, and so we're stupid not to utilise that. But you I'd really like to think that, like in most other areas, or a lot of other areas, especially the South Island, where a lot of these schemes are set up, and they're actually owned by the users, basically. It's, you know, the users pay, and that's probably the way it needs to happen long term. We can't hide behind the fact that water's one of the things we need to start utilising and storing a lot here, because from what we've seen, we have a lot of, sometimes we have very little of others, so it would be pretty stupid to ignore it, and I think we should lead it pretty fast. And it'll be a great time now to actually, we're trying to activate these catchment groups, which people are really paying attention to now, so it's a golden opportunity to do this work alongside those catchment groups, not in isolation.
Okay. Councillor Pahuruhuru.
Just again to total ko option 5, and in addition to Josh's kōrero around non-municipal, including homes and water tanks, just also reiterating what Councillor Parata has talked about in the past in terms of water tanks and water filters, with the high numbers of homes that are registering with E. coli in their water tanks. So, and a lot of the new homes that are coming, up the coast, they now have water filters attached. So, yeah, I think, I mean, part of this whole leadership thing to also look into the whole gamut for non-municipal, not just the storage, but also the long-term care of it. I see Rawania's hand is up too.
Councillor Tupara.
Thank you. Through the chair, just picking up on Councillor Telfer's point about user pays and whether or not they, in our considerations, we can give some consideration of scale of use. And as some of the users out there require far greater amounts of water, and whether or not scale becomes a measure of when the user pays, should kick in, or thoughts around that needs to happen. And that's in, also aligns with Councillor Wharehinga's comment about the smaller user. And so that those smaller users, and I'd like to add Marae in on those, that list as well, and how we balance off their take or their what contribution we make at that level alongside contributions to on a larger scale, and just taking scale into account.
Councillor Parata, welcome.
Morena tātou. Really enjoyed seeing this paper come across our table, mostly because I've been very vocal about water quality, and particularly the water available to whānau who are not on the reticulated system. In the last 2 weeks, I received a report or a research paper from Dr. Oz, who's the medical officer of the Whairawhiti. The paper outlines how often waterborne sicknesses are not picked up and not reported, but he estimates it to be significantly widespread. The reality is that a lot of the decisions we make at council will not be transformational. The conversations we have around water and what we can do to support water storage, water quality, domestic supply is transformational change and building resilience for people that need it the most. Particularly just thinking about emergency management. It's raining heavy here. My tank is already full. There's nothing we can do to catch that water. What I am aware of, and I'll just have this noted for the minutes, is that I'm currently recovery lead for the Regional Public Service in my day job. But the public service itself is working together to think about how we might invest and support in domestic supply drinking water for the region. It would be amazing for council to also lead and participate in that space as we figure out what the steps might be in order to get the investment that we require for whānau to be able to have good, clean drinking water and an abundant supply of water when they need it. So I also, just in case that wasn't clear, I support the rest of the table. I just felt like that needed to be said. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I'm not surprised that conversation has gone there. This is a paper about irrigation water as opposed to household supply, and I'm sure we'll, I'm not surprised that we have got the comments around household supplies there. No further?
Should I do a right of reply?
Do you want to do a right of reply?
I don't think I need to do a right of reply. I think everyone is supporting it. All good. No right of reply.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Ms. Stoltz and seconded by Councillor Alder. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Next, we've got the updated projects funded by the Natural Heritage Fund, page 38. Great projects getting on in this. And it is just a noting report. We'll take it as read, but if you want to address it, it's...
Nothing in particular, just to mention 2023 was a good year for the NHF. We had $40,000. It was also a very big year for weather, so we were very pleased that only 2 of the 17 projects needed extra time to complete. Both of those are on track to complete hopefully in the spring.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Telfer.
Yeah, through the chair. There's just one thing, and I noticed going through them that there's, some of them are doing this fencing off these blocks with deer fencing, and deer are one of the biggest issues we've got out there. The numbers that are out there, and fencing off some of these native blocks, so-called to preserve them without having a deer fence. I think it's a bit of a waste of time. So I've seen a lot of them that have been quite a while aren't actually regenerating like they should do. So it's probably something to look at.
But are they keeping the deer out?
Well,
No.
ones that are fenced are, yes. But if they're not fenced, they're not. If they're not deer fenced. So it's probably something just to look at with these applications about what you're actually trying to achieve. You've got to make sure that the mitigations are put in place to achieve it. So.
Thank you, Chair. Just drawing attention to page 16. Well, firstly,
Sorry?
Point 16, page 42. It's a great initiative. You can't fault it. But if we are funding fences, those fences have to be to a standard, and that fence is not a standard deer fence. It's about deer fencing that there should be no internal stays. The deer have the ability to bounce off it.
External stay.
So if the bush is on the other side of that, that stay should have been not positioned where it is.
On the other side, so we can get out.
That's just a point, right?
No.
So is there anything relating to the quality of the fence in the application?
Well, we usually use fencing contractors to complete the work. So on this occasion, I'm unsure. It's a good point. Something that happens recently. The fence was completed by a contractor, so I'm unsure why that has been done like that. But it's certainly something that we can make sure we keep an eye on.
Thanks for that. Anyone else? Okay, do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Alder, seconded by Councillor Greenwood. Nothing further, all those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. At the end of the agenda, we do have public excluded, but we'll take that after the other. And just for your information, Councillor Foster is sick. Councillor,
Put in as a
apologies. Okay, so can we note that? So as per standing orders, the deputy chair then takes the seat. Because the information only comes through at 8:30, it's a bit unfair on Teddy. I mean, I'm happy for him to come here if he wants. But even for me to come in as chair, finding out at 8:30 does make the meeting a little bit more difficult. So the option is to postpone council orders and standing orders and have me chair the
I support that.
construction meeting.
Second.
So suspension of standing orders moved by Mayor Stoltz and seconded by Councillor Pahuruhuruwai that I chair the infrastructure component of the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll get our new agendas up unless you want to early come. It's too early. All right, just to narrow down the process, apologies are the same, move by. And we have two apologies now because Councillor Foster is now apology. Apologies are Councillor Robertson and Councillor Foster. Mayor Stoltz, seconded by Councillor
Councillor
Gregory.
Ria still trying to get in.
Your internet's down, so
Okay, we'll just keep an eye on that one. All those in favour? Carried. No declaration. Straight to the page 4. Oh, you went here. Moved by Councillor Pahuruhuruwai, second by Councillor Gregory. Any matters arising? No matters there, all in favour? Against? Carried. No declarations, non-Municipal tributes, public petitions. So we get straight into the nitty-gritty, which is page 15, the operations infrastructure update.
Waikato. My team were expecting this to be at 10 a.m, so
You're it.
So the way we roll. Right, with it. You need a team here, we're going to find out.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, we'll have a 5-minute break to give the team time to find a seat. Yeah. And then there was a council matter arising from the minutes, so Councillor Telford.
Okay.
And we're looking at page 7.
It was just on page 7, about the marina wall. Down there, it says there that it was 400k for 120 metres. When we looked at it at that meeting, it was 680k's for 52 metres. Where these numbers have come from, that was all $13,000 per metre. And I actually specifically brought it up about the cost of that metre. So just wanted to know what these numbers are.
Yep, okay.
Can I comment? Yeah, because initially it was estimated, we got a timber revetment, timber pile revetment, and during the cyclone Gabriel, it was completely damaged, but the forestry industry damaged more of us. So when we asked for a quotation from timber agencies, they didn't have access. They were not sure when they get access and get timber and they get it cured, and because we need to process it for 6 months. So the only option, if we wanted to go for a immediate revetment, was sheet pile. Sheet piles were much more costly. The timber piles were 6 meters, but the sheet piles were 12 meters because it goes just to the silt, so sheet pile cost us like 300,000, and then many contractors' cost and capping rail was wide concrete capping, not a timber little flag. So because of the improvement, it cost 690.
Yeah, so the actual issue is the accuracy of.
We discussed all that about what the difference between the piles and that we used and whatnot.
Well, the minutes to be accurate.
The minutes to be accurate, because it was actually what we were discussing, the number that we were discussing, the cost of that was 52 metres and it was 680,000, so we were 15,000 a metre. So I'm just wondering why in the minutes it's come out here that it's 400k for 120 metres, because that's totally different.
Right. we're on to page 15, the operations update.
Chair, kia ora koutou. You might have noticed a slight change in formatting this report, so we're really interested in trying to engage more effectively with yourselves in our delivery of infrastructure and operations. So that's the basis behind that. So we're going to roll through our teams of starting with land, rivers and coastal, followed by stormwater, wastewater, water supply, lastly roading network. So unless there's any initial questions on that format, welcome feedback, then I'd love to get into the coastal report. That's on page 19.
Yeah, that formatting gives clarity, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Thank you.
You thought you'd escaped easy.
no, we're starting now. Starting now, so first paper being page 19, operating. Assume this is read and we've got.
Sorry. Oh, we're into questions already. I just got handed a note. Thank you, Councillor
Yeah,
Telford.
just page 19. I was just wondering about the graph. Yes, I'm reading it wrong, but just on the graph on page 19 around the Fulton Hogan annual progress here, just that there's two lines for 2023-24, which is red at the top of the graph. Just wondering what the difference is there. Both 2023 and they're totally different. The red line is 2023-24 and the green line,
Solid green line.
Yeah.
There's no solid.
There's no solid.
There's no solid green line. Sorry, that's
It's a mistake.
So strike the solid green red line. And there should be just sorry, the solid green line. Strike that, and the red line. What this shows is a large investment that happened in our most recent investment period. Compared to what typically would be from that.
Nothing further on land. So that section covers
Well, that section covers update, 3 monthly updates in the last report.
Yep.
And it covers a little bit more detail about what's happened at the park, if that's of interest.
Yep.
The drain management plan presented last time, a 10-year
10-year work program.
program.
Mainly focused on first 3 years. Should be considered a 3-year plan. So.
And our desire to make that more accessible and visible to our customers as well. So we're building that, and also a prioritisation strategy, which in the print form is quite hard to read. That's on page 21. It just illustrates some disciplines going in that we can lean on.
Just with regards to Anzac Park, is there any of this drainage work that will need to be applied for Wakahama storage facility?
Actually, Anzac Park is managed by the Livable Services, and what we do is just to replace the revetment. So the rest of the work is livable space functions, like Wakahama. We don't deal with issues.
Councillor Telford.
Yeah, there's obviously just a spelling mistake here, just on page below the photo of the and the fixing over there just says that 2025-26 June flood. Don't know if you quite had that one yet. It's a Waipawa floodgate being over 25-26, so we'll plan for that one.
Councillor, visitor.
Thank you, Chairman Ngala, for the report. Just in regards to the drain maintenance program, so that's all happening, I guess, around Gisborne town area out a bit, but is there a similar plan for the local roading network up the rural areas, or drainage and things?
Because our drainage district is not covered, like, these are those who pay targeted rates.
Oh, okay.
Like, so this program is prepared based on the targeted rates we receive.
We can revisit that question when voting.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to compliment you on the format. I found it really easy to read, and it's got a pattern in it that was made it consistent and cut the time down, I thought. And just on this, and just also to compliment the idea of sharing these plans with the community, because when we get a complaint and a request, it's quite nice to be able to say, well, your drain's only 50% blocked. There's a whole lot out there that are 80% blocked, and trying to point people in that direction. And if they've got access to that information, it is going to make our job a lot less pressure. So I appreciate that. Cheers.
Well, if there's nothing more on land rivers and coastal, I think we're from urban stormwater.
Urban stormwater is that Leo.
Yes, ma'am.
We're starting on page 25.
25, thanks.
We've got 16 members, so
I'm the only one holding out.
because this is a
Or maybe I'll talk to quickly. What we have done here is prepare an operations and an infrastructure report for each of the three waters: stormwater, wastewater and drinking water. And yeah, as Tim said, in a new format, try and give a bit more information and understanding of where we're at. Take the reports as read. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Tupper?
Yeah, probably just around the page 34, just around the problem you have with the tertiary filters and the reliability. Who's where you at with that one? Because I would presume that the planning and these consultants together, that's what it's supposed to achieve. So if it's not achieving the standard that we're actually expecting out of the plant, it must come back on who's designed it properly. Maybe you can't give us any more update at this stage.
well, the last update we gave you, we were of the opinion that our consultants, contractors were at blame, or blame might not be a hard word, were accountable for that, but subsequently on reviewing the month, realised that we were party to the decisions that were made in selection of the filters at that point, despite being requested by the designers to consider at that point. GDC decision led to that. That's been on review with our legal support.
correct. We are still continuing to work through some of the project meetings through that process, well to understand the decision flow and directly what the involvement was with miners and tertiary equipment providers. So it's a process still in action to look at the ultimate resolution of that.
It's probably something, through the chair, it's probably something, for the future that it's a bit like, it's a bit like when you get a house designed with an architect, it doesn't seem to be the comeback on the architect 3 years down the track. I just think that someone wants an expert in this field, and that's why you go to them, because if I was to design, you would expect the delivery to actually be what you think. Something that you need to look at for the future if we are going down that track about what is the expected delivery extent.
So the commissioning date's well exceeded now. What's the implications of not being?
We continue to work through, as the report's indicated, with the equipment that is performing, so that the plant is up and running, and we're compliant when it comes to Enterprise. We're way under compliance, actually, so the target is 1,000 CFU per 100 mil, and we are averaging about 280. So that UV is performing exceptionally well. The clarifier team have, over the last few months, and it has taken a period to optimise the plant, have optimised the clarifier. We are very close without the tertiary filters to compliance performance, which is 30 milligrams per litre of salt, sitting at times at about 34 to 35. So we continue to work through optimising that performance while working through the pathways to solution tertiary filter. The team still remains focused on the quality of wastewater that is coming out of the plant at a high level, and so the investment that has been made is
useful for commissioning.
Our aim is this year. We are working through options with tertiary filters. Target is still
Thank you. Okay, nothing more on Munster? Oh, yes, Councillor Pahini.
Just a little locational thing on page 23, Krakatūkiro River is in the other one.
Sorry?
It's the Aotearoa North Krakatūkiro River on page 23.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the Karakia is Te Aroha, not
Just the location of.
No.
My other question was about the two filters as well, but it's been answered.
Yeah. Thanks. So you're just talking to that picture that was in Mangala's report where it says 26th of June, that was the 25th and 26th of June that we had the weather event, not the years.
Right.
That was we had a substantial weather event last night.
All right, there's nothing further on Westwood.
All briefly,
Oh, sorry. Oh, she's not a question, she's just a opinion. Hi, Aubrey, we can see you now. Well, see your flowers.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Judith's away, so we'll continue with Leo.
All right.
What page are we on?
We're on page 35.
35, thanks. 35 councillors? You again.
So just page 5, can you just explain overland pumping was required at Waipawa? Can you just explain what that is? There's an intake there.
There's an intake that sits on the riverside of the stop bank.
Yeah.
For hydraulic reasons, it struggles when at high flows, at high river levels. So we put a surface pump over land. Exactly.
So directly out of the river, you pump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we just put a higher pump in there and pump over land to the clarifiers, which are 100 or so metres away.
But the intake, the water from the intake, because that comes from down underneath, that would be a lot cleaner than what you're actually taking out. It's not.
Okay, they're floating, so they're in the river. They're not the subsurface intake. We are looking at that. That is a program for resilience.
Subsurface.
There's a desire to put essentially a cage underground underneath the river gravel, and then that would the intake. It's often used in irrigation as well. Potentially be a slightly improved quality of water. I wouldn't think it would be greatly different from what was coming out of the river, given the flows that are going into it. And the nature of that, those suspension is very small. But it'll be nice not to have to run the overland pump. So that was ordered prior to the event in anticipation of that being needed and whatever.
Just a question on the picture on page 36, the Waipawa treatment plant. That was sort of our backup, but initially it was mainly what we flood conditions, but we kind of need a backup in that heavy rain condition down. When I look at that picture, it looks quite at risk at that period of time too, so it's like we could quite easily use both sources of water. Looking at that picture, is that able to run under those circumstances?
That's the intake structure there.
Yeah.
It's explained it's probably the clumsiest piece of that whole apparatus, the intake. We have a workaround by overpumping, so that's something that's relatively easy to do, I think. And this wasn't just a flood event. We lost the pipeline because of that break. So that was the real reason for kicking off the Waipawa treatment plant.
Yeah. And that's shooting from the top of the stop bank too, so that's it. Slides, the stop banks.
You can see that failure in the top left-hand corner of page 36 of the pipeline. So that's the reason we started the Waipawa plant. Not the storm event itself. The storm event caused that break. The land that's in a big sort of moving slip there. And that was a give-up spot, right? Yeah, so we have this pipeline is held together by mechanical joints, which are called giblets. They are a bit stiffer than the rest of the pipeline, so they tend to be the bit you fail at. Which isn't a bad thing, because you just don't know where they are and end up being able to weld a plate there. So we know how to repair the pipe, but getting there and being able to get that in a short period of time is a challenge. And they were arguably still in the storm event when they're fixing it.
Just determined by length of pipe.
They'll be consistent along the length of the pipe.
Yeah.
So the idea is to over time swap them out and pretty much do I think we did a couple on this
We've done several in that section.
We took the chance to do a few more at the same time because this particular section is in a slip that's not going away, it's going to keep moving. And it will always attack the weak part of a steel pipe. Steel pipes are amazingly resilient, so it's just searching for the slip that we found it.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
No, thank you. The replacement pipe bridges were kind of replaced as they were. Therefore, they're not necessarily any stronger. How confident are you that upstream from there, the slash load and the trees that could potentially fall into the river, how confident are you those risks have been mitigated?
Those risks are evident and still there because what we're really concerned about is land movement up there with 1,000 trees and quite easily upstream. So it's not effectively mitigated. The pipe was replaced at the same grade it was previously, but a body of work that we're undertaking now is looking at that with an idea of improving the chances of those bridges surviving by potentially moving the ones that can be moved upwards. So maybe lifting them at each end and maintaining them as it. So that's being considered. Depending on the hydraulic grade, etc. So we need the water to fall, so we need to model that. We want to be able to potentially lift those bridges up. That'll be reasonably sizable budgetary items over a number of years. They won't eliminate the risk, but they'll improve the survivability. So this pipeline's not only about trying to engineer your way out of risk, trying to reduce the opportunity for breaks, and then always being aware of how you fix when you have a failure.
Supplementary, could we do more by attacking trees that are vulnerable, basically getting rid of them?
There is being work done in that respect. So the trees that are obvious resting close to the pipeline, there's processes in place, and we're running the woody debris program up in that valley as well. But the sheer mass, and I think the councillors have recently visited that catchment. You know what the sides of the streams up there look like. Totally eliminating that in a short period of time, not easy and probably not advisable either. We want people to be very careful about how they go about undertaking that work. Arguably, there's as much risk in doing the work as in losing the pipe, potentially more. So, yeah, we're just trying to be as pragmatic as possible. It's our biggest sort of infrastructure risk, identified infrastructure risk, the upper reaches of our water supply network.
Yeah, that page 39 is quite telling, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what, you lose one of those hills. Good luck with your design.
All right, if there's nothing further on water, I'll manage local roading network.
I take my component of the report as read in summary. June 2024 rain event, 25th to 26th of June. We currently have 2 roads closed in association with that specific weather event. Both were alternative routes and council is working through how it can seek funding to recover those roads. But at this point in time, I understand there are no people without access. In terms of road maintenance activities, I did just provide a bit of a kind of annual wind-up there for you. One based on Councillor Pahuruhuruwai's question before around the amount of drainage completed. I see I've included culverts, but not the actual drainage, roadside drainage. So last year we completed 14% of the total network drainage, which is as per the funding we have from in our budget to do so. So we budgeted to do 516 kilometres per year, and we've done 512 last year, so we're about on target there for the funding we have available. In terms of public transport and total mobility, the new bus contract is currently being developed. It's still at a officers level at this point in time, but the process is to have a similar approach to what we have now, just with improvements to make it more affordable and user-friendly. I'm excited to share that we have rolled out our first round of localised practices for temporary traffic management, less cones type approach, but without compromising safety. So that work Mo's been working on since the 6th of March 2023 is very exciting to have landed and will continue to roll out. He was up the coast, the northern part of our network yesterday, doing auditing for the next tranche of streamlined traffic management there. Focus for us for the next 3 months is maintaining network levels of service, which is obviously in winter months proving very difficult. We're starting to get to the end of the saturated season, so we're all looking for a bit of sun out there. We are working closely with our heavy vehicle sector to make sure that they can continue to operate in these trying times. Continuing on with our temporary traffic management, setting ourselves up for a successful year.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to commend you, Libby, you and your team, Tim, everyone. If you take a look at page 46, the huge amount of work that has been done in the last financial year. I do want to, and it's fantastic to see, and I think we should make sure people see the huge amount of roadwork and culverts and everything that has been done after a very tough year. One thing I want to talk about that comes to my office, and it has been since COVID, and especially in the last little while, are our street lights. I know there are some issues, and I know during COVID there was a dud delivery of lights that arrived, and there were issues with not arriving in time. And can we get a timeline of how we're going to address this issue? Because as you drive around town, it is very visible. It's also a safety issue. So I was just thinking, and I get quite a few phone calls around that, and people are understanding. They do realise there are issues that we are trying to address, but I was just wondering if we could maybe communicate that with the public, what our plans are, how we're going to address it, why we are in this situation, because 10% of lights are quite a few, and also maybe give a timeline of when we're going to get on top of that.
Through you, Chair, absolutely, Your Worship. I have presented a proposal, just waiting for feedback on that, and then we'll be able to go back to the community about the problems and timeframe.
Fantastic, thank you for that.
Thank you. All right.
Exactly adding on to Reginald's comments about ensuring inclusion of our rural communities. When 10% of their lighting goes out, that's probably quite obvious and quite a lot for them. And particularly I've had feedback from Karakia Bay about the loss of lighting on their streets. So ensuring that they're calculated.
Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah,
street lights too, because we brought the bike through the gardens and not quite push her now because she's scared in the dark. And we'll see page 53. The trial it's started now. Have we got the start date and a finish date for this trial?
So through you, Chair, that is the next report up, which Dave will.
All right, that's the end of the stuff.
A new seal doesn't come with a guarantee. And for example, Ruby Road, I don't remember the date of the seal, but it's already
Through you, Chair, I will get Dave to speak to that. That's a road renewal, and while we just work through who does what, I'll defer that question for one moment when Dave, you can.
I'll answer it when I come up, if that's okay.
Nothing further on that. It's just a noted report. Page 15, the recommendation report will be noted. This moved by.
I thought Dave was coming to speak to the last part of this. In the trek report, he's talking about Grey Street. No, it's in the last chunk of this.
The last chunk.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Living operations.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll just give an update on, if it's okay for the chair. There's 3 questions. Just with the 1,000-year bridge, one thing that we have to notice is we're going to have to watch is some of the designers have said that in other areas across around the world, they basically have the Titanic theme, and people want to try and get a shot in the front. So there's some little small design elements we just have to sort that out. And so, because it will be. So it's just something we didn't think about.
So what Dave's referring to, people might climb on the front and be at risk of a fall.
Yeah. So that's one thing. It's easier to sort out, but we don't want to put something that actually diminishes the just putting a thing. You can do some things. So we'll be able to give an update for that. With the Streets for People, there was a commitment for the cameras. We've got the cameras. We didn't realise the council does have a CCTV policy, and the feedback we got from Auckland Transport is we just have to get signed off. The cameras in themselves are easy. It's the AI that actually reads the information off that, and we just have to make sure our suppliers, we give this to suppliers to make sure that information is developed to third parties. That's the only reason those cameras haven't gone up. So the policy is quite clear that it doesn't go into private, doesn't go private. It's just to make it on the street. That's the only reason those cameras haven't gone up at this stage, but we've got everything.
The question is more to the start date of the actual trial.
It was meant to be.
Match with the cameras.
It was meant to match with the cameras. The cameras are here, we've got the function. We just want to make sure that we comply with council CCTV policy, that the information isn't seen to other parties. If it's read by a third party, we just have to make sure that we're confident that's not with third parties.
So the starting of the trial has to wait for the camera.
Exactly. The cameras are here, so that's all it is. Yeah, absolutely.
So it could start before that. Councillor Fuddy, sorry.
No, I just was wondering if it was Councillor Thompson that had asked the question again. So the trial won't start until the cameras are in place.
That's right. Oh, sorry. The safety engineer's gone there. He went there this week. But the trial, the moment we get the AOK that information won't be sent to third parties, then the cameras will go up.
Have we got a rough time frame for that?
We'd like to put it up next
week.
week.
Asking when the trial is, because
we'd like to put it.
Grey Street's been there for a while now, and they're a bit upset the trial still hasn't started. So.
Yeah, it's a small thing, but it's important that.
So have we got a time frame and feedback to the people for trial start dates?
I'd love to say next week. We just have to get that sign off from that supplier, and we're pushing them to make sure that information isn't given to third parties.
How many cameras are you talking?
We've got four.
Four.
Okay. And we are looking at potentially putting one up at the 1,000-year.
Is that an independent system, or does it feed into the existing camera network?
No, it's independent. We apply it, but we have to give the information to the third party.
Just supplementary on the safety thing, I've seen a lot of comments re safety at Grey Street. Have you, so the safety thing was done the last couple of days, do you have any feedback from that?
Not yet, because we did say there was some, on the website we've got the usual safety design that was peer reviewed by NZTA, not by council staff, but an independent NZTA safety advisor. That information's on the website up there. And the safety award, so they're called Urban Connections, and then they give their findings, and I'll give that back to the NZTA safety engineer to review, and then they'll give it to us to, if there's any changes.
So we'll get to view safety?
Well, we're just putting everything up on the website. If you go onto that Participate website, you'll see all the only thing we haven't put up is the that trialling and what approach we've got it in terms of, you know, when's the cameras going up, when we're doing RFS. That's the last thing we've got to put up. Everything's there.
I know you've got a question. I just wanted to for yours first, or deal with issue by issue?
No, I'm happy with it, but I just want to come back to that I haven't forgotten.
Right. Councillor Pahuru.
Thanks for the report, guys. So the independent safety engineer, again around Grey Street. I've had NZTA staff who are involved with driver licensing and driver testing officers, because that is it's a driver testing route. And there's a number of issues around approaches to the roundabout and the crossing, which is causing, it means essentially students fail if they're not stopping in the right place. They instant failure and there's not a lot of room for error when you're going into the roundabout off Grey Street, with that crossing also very close to the roundabout, in terms of being able to land your vehicle, especially if you're on a four-wheel drive, is definitely so I'm just wondering if this independent safety engineer is also talking with other NZTA staff, like for instance in the driver licensing space.
I don't know. I can answer that because, like council, NZTA is different teams like council. I mean, we can
follow that up.
I can follow that up.
On my question about potholes, so yes, does a new seal come with a guarantee, and if so, how long is it? And
the one is Rootney Road, so that was a reseal. Yes, there is our contractors acknowledge that. It's just getting the right time, and we're going to have to go in there. Oh, they're going to have to go there, and it's obviously but it's
so is it a set time period that they are to cover?
Yeah.
How does it work?
So it'll go for a year, because their preference, our preference too, it actually has to be done when it's dry. It's just too good. But that site has been highlighted.
And another question about the bridge. So the lava slipped mitigated. Is it lava leak mitigated? So is it protected against suicide?
Well, none of our bridges are to that extent. But the biggest risk for us, we think, is the lava one at the front, because it's where you're wanting to take a selfie.
Thank you. Just declaring somewhat of a conflict here with regard to the bridge, given that I was part of the design team for it. The issue raised about the Titanic reference wasn't part of our consideration for sure. In saying that, a key motivator around the design of the bridge was that it comes off Titirangi at a place called Waikahua, which is the name of the view from that part of the hill. And so view is extremely significant to the location and positioning of that bridge. In terms of a cultural context, a major part of the cultural design was ensuring that that waka carried a tikanga with it that would be recognisable to Māori, particularly those who are involved with waka or are involved with arts, Māori arts, mai toi. And so there's a lot of deliberate design in that. So if there is a consideration of altering that in any way, just to a suggestion that the any redesigning accounts for any cultural implications to the tikanga of the waka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just circling back to the camera stuff in regards to Grey Street. How does the delay in the cameras being installed materially impact the period in regards to the trial being conducted? Like, I've driven through it, the report says that all the improvements, installation stuff was finally completed late in July. I would think that the trial is starting now, from late July, according to the paper that's put in front of us. So, are you able to explain how not installing 2 or 3 cameras materially impacts the start date of their trial?
Yeah. So we were reliant on that technology to do most of the grunt work for us because it's there 24, well, for a maximum of 70 hours. The battery runs out rather than someone sitting there going tick, 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 and that's what the technology's for. If the delay, and that's why we're having it, because there was issues that there were specific queries that people were talking about at that spot, so we could put the camera at that spot and you could see it, over a good, and because they can also work during the night as well. That's in the definition. So you could see the patterns of those specific so-called areas that were safety. So it just stops. It was using technology instead of using grunt work, and for someone to go around there, and we can have someone sitting there and going tick, tick, tick. But that's why we wanted the technology.
Right, so it's our delay on the, because, the sentiment, there's a vocal part of our community that wants that trial period to begin ASAP in order to be able to get to that 12-month period, in order to be able to provide feedback, to be able to review the work that's been done right. But what I'm hearing is that it's our own data collection part, so it's our own council part that's delaying the start, like pressing start on this 12 months. That's
correct. It protects us in the future that as long as we comply with our CCTV council policy to the confidentiality, that's protected and council protected. So yes, you're right. We're just looking at making sure we're protected.
Is there anything that's preventing us from pressing start on the trial date, technically starting after the works have been completed, which is what the report says, and which the works, again, like I said, I've driven through it a few times. I try and make a habit of it so I know what the experience themselves. Why can't we start the ticking of the time, and any gap there, that's on us. In terms of our lack of ability to collect that data, I would think that that's a more community-oriented way in order to be able to press start on the 12 months.
Or we could say that it was started once the safety engineer got to the site. It was finished.
So start on the 12 months has begun?
Because that was the key. They can go through that, and then we can say that part is finished.
Okay. So the start date was yesterday.
So Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. Wednesday, 31st. Thank you.
Right. Just on another topic. Just on the Grey Bow Street, if we're going to have surveillance, is there any thought that surveillance might be used for other opportunity, for want of a better word, than traffic management? There are always, I get approached a lot about activities of people around the public toilets there, times when there's been bullying at the skate park, times when there's been gathering youth, for want of a better term, and all those other types of things that CCTV cameras tend to venture into. And if that is the case, I think that also should be made clear. If it's not intended that that data gathered will be used in any other manner than traffic management, that's made very clear, particularly because there are private homes on that stretch, and people are taking their families and their children down to the skate park. Everybody's aware of what data has been collected and how secure that data will be to acknowledge the rights that our community expect.
Agree, and that's why I'm really glad we've got a policy.
Well, anything further on that report? No, that's it. Nothing from the councillors? Again, it's just a noting report. Yep. Councillor Farahina, seconded by your worship. All those in favour? Let's go. And when we come back, we'll go on to public comments. So this part of the meeting's closed.
One more paper.
Trick.
Oh, trick.
Let's have a break.
Let's have a coffee.
Slave driver.
Yes.
I'm not.
A coffee?
Yes.
The infrastructure report to the committee, and we've got the chair, Richard and Scott. We just going to tell us what it's all about. Good to hear. Yeah.
I'm the Wakutahi's owner space manager for Karakia in the Trick Alliance.
Good morning, everybody's Scott Elworth. I'm the Owners Interface Manager across both Hawke's Bay and Karakia, and thanks for having us today. I'll lead off with the first slide and then we've had a major reset following budget announcements, 250 of additional recovery funding. So recovery is for us returning the state highway to 2 lanes. The rebuild business cases, etc. are there, but we're not supported with treasury funding. So hold with ETA and we'll go in business cases that we put together, we'll go into future consideration outside of TREC. So we know what our funding levels are, what our scope is. In the budget announcement, there were specific references to an online Waikari Bridge and a Mangahuini Gorge as a recovery project. Mangahuini was we had a business case for a complete rebuild of that section of State Highway. That's not to be at this stage. We are to recover that section of State Highway basically in the location it is now, but provide additional resilience where we can. So we've got some additional things to share with you on those. Specifically on, if I just tick off Waikari Bridge at this stage, connection south, although in the Treasury announcement from 2024, the instruction was to construct an online bridge in that location, so a reinforced concrete bridge at the bottom of the gorge. We are pausing on that at this stage in anticipation of the NLTP funding in September, which might support just in a hold on stage. we're around about a third of the way through the spend, and we've got probably another 18, 20, well, I'd say 24 months program left. And there's rail scope in addition to what we're talking about today, but that's predominantly in I'll talk a little bit about Mangahuini Gorge now. There's some interest there because we didn't specifically prepare slides on that site, really because we were in the last couple of weeks trying to figure out what the right strategy there is, putting the correct steps in place to liaise with stakeholders, etc. But I think we could talk about that now, and also I can see that picture of the excavator there in the river, and we are, in light of the recent event here in the region, all of our trek health and safety plans with respect to the operation of excavators, particularly in and around the river. Richard, do you want to jump into Mangahuini?
Yep. Yeah, so like Scott said, previously we'd been looking at Mangahuini as a rebuild project. Now with recovery, there will be improvements along the current alignment to restore it to 2 lanes and some strengthen where possible. We've had a lot of feedback and we've done a lot of work from GDC and the local community to support the business case work, and it's provided a lot of insights which have been invaluable and really appreciated by the team. We're meeting with Hapua community on the side of Gorge in August to discuss options to do that. And yeah, so investigations to date, we have done a lot of early work in that business case. It is helping inform the recovery works also. We were sort of heading towards online improvements anyway, so a lot of it's still applicable. What we are looking at for the proposed recovery work in Mangahuini Gorge is there's sort of 5 aspects to it. Reinstating the damaged unsealed sections of highway back to 2 lanes, protecting the road from river at most vulnerable locations, so that's erosion protection, some drainage improvements. We know that we've got a couple areas through there where we've got a lot of water coming out of the hills. We're looking to reduce that where possible, and potentially improving the stability of slopes above the highway. And our drainage improvements also are looking at our culvert sizing through there. We know that we've got culverts that are appropriately sized for the level of rain that we get, but they can't handle the level of sediment and debris that we get. So we're looking at ways to address that. And the last option, which is the most expensive and will be the hardest to get funded and into the funding side, is potentially river grade control measures. So there's previously been weirs, sheep pile weirs in the river to help that river grade control. Some of them have failed, some of them aren't looking in great shape. So we're looking at options in regards to that also.
You might just pause there and take questions. I think the historical attempts to control the river all ended up at the bottom of the river. So that is a very, very tricky piece of engineering to try and attempt to take the energy out of the river. Pause for any questions?
Yeah, it's fine. Councillor
Through the chair. Yeah, just noted there that we've got, so far we've got NZTA being allocated 250 million plus the original 384. That's 634 million, and yet 220 has been spent, and the remaining is 34 million dollars there.
Yeah, the difference between 384 and 352 is the initial 384 included 9% of NZTA project delivery costs, 9%. So NZTA received 384, Trek only received 352. Then when the 250 came in, we had a discussion with NZTA that we got all of that and that the 9% wasn't taken off. So we in fact get 352 as Trek plus 250, 602. I've got 600 there, haven't I? It's 602 in fact.
So what's the rest of it used for? It just stays in NZTA?
It's overhead operating, NZTA overhead operating costs.
So they apply that to all projects.
So that's applied to projects that come through the NLTP process also.
Good news is we've negotiated a position where it's not taken off the 250 and off the 384.
Okay, I just struggle with that because I would have thought that if this money's been allocated to actually redo these roads, and you guys are supposedly in charge of redoing these roads, that would be design and everything. 30 odd million disappearing.
Yeah, the other way to look at it is the additional 384 funding application is built up of 352 plus the NZTA 9%. So when it came in, it was, when the funding came in, it was taken off for the 352. It's a niggly one for me because NZTA won't allow me to go publicly and say Trek got 352 because it's just a messaging thing we want to control. But we have only received 352 of the 384 plus 250, 602 in fact.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Thompson.
Just on page 73, there's 80% of the works being done by local contractors. Whether it works direct to locals or that's through the big players and they're looking on that work.
So the procurement strategy from the outset has been to deliver local so far as practical, as much as possible, whatever word you choose. So we manage the delivery of the program with Trek, so the scope of work will be identified, it'll come into the procurement team. The procurement team will go, this is delivered by a local contractor, so we go straight to the local, they'll procure it and deliver it. I mean, Trek's still across it as a head contractor, you know.
Those local contractors aren't.
They're not reporting to Diana Higgins. They're reporting to the Trek Alliance.
Cool, that's good. Thank you.
Councillor Gregory.
Thank you for being here today. So I guess it looks like that Trek is puts in business cases, gets some work, and goes and does it, and that you're in charge of all of the recovery from all along the east coast, from Potaka down to somewhere near Wellington. It feels like State 35 really is missed out in the consideration, and just wondering if that is because of the volume of traffic on that. Is that one of the major considerations when it comes to business cases?
It's a factor for business cases, it's not a factor for recovery. So recovery is returning the level of service to 2 lanes, and that's where the need is physically rather than traffic volumes. It is part of the equation for business case calculations when you're looking at the benefit cost ratios, and that's just that's standard for all NZTA business cases.
And when you talk about the supplementary question, the realignment of the Mangahuini being something that you saw that is probably going to be needed to prevent that from happening again. So does it seem futile that you're not doing that and that you're just fixing it up?
We had the same problem in East Valley and Devil's Elbow and all the other business cases weren't funded either. So we will put back the state highway effectively where it was, but to modern design standard. So if we replace a bridge for a bridge looking like for like, it will be a lot stronger, and it certainly will be able to handle any horizontal load from river and from slash. Given what we know, we won't put it back to 1960, 1970 standards, it'll be today's. And we'll certainly go as far as we can up Mangahuini Gorge. But we will in that location still basically have a road and a river. You know, it's right there. It's just on the river's edge, and when the river decides to flood, it will flood.
So we can just be hopeful that in that new TP budget that comes out in September, that there might be some more funding that might help
Not all Mangahuini.
That's right, because I thought, because I put it before the low traffic road.
It's probably worth noting also that in the investigations in that business case, they found very high risks on putting the road on other alignments through that gorge. Essentially, both sides of the gorge are covered with large historic landslides. So any excavations into that opens up quite a can of worms as far as unstable ground. So we could end up with another Koporoa or Dino scenario.
So just to take Councillor Gregory's question a little bit further, you would see down here with potential rebuild remains unfunded.
Yeah.
So to get that funded, would that then fall back into the analysis by way of usage?
Partially.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those business cases will be the ones that are completed go into the NLTP for funding of cases there.
It's never worked for us.
No.
No.
Never will.
Yeah, so there are some that do have positive BCRs, cost ratios, but yeah, they do need to complete nationally.
Councillor Pahuru.
Thank you, Chair. Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Richard and Scott, for coming. And thank you, Richard, for taking the time out the other week to meet with Tōmari Ako. And I just encourage you to keep having those conversations. It's good to hear that you've got a meeting coming up later on this month, or the end of August, and distressing that there is no money to do some change there. It's only able to put up covering work. Definite change you can see from, in terms of, because I travel that road frequently from Karakia, definite drop in the number of roadworks since your guys' budget was cut significantly. But I see more local roading contractors in those spots. Also note the reduction of cones, which is good. There's more of those other small standard ones. What are they called? Where they mark where the dropouts are likely to be. And I had a question about Busby's Hill as well, and also Kemp's Hill. Kemp's hasn't had any, all those that are going to drop away. Tokomaru Bay, I think, has about 5 sets of traffic lights around it at the moment. One of the questions one of the, feedback we've had from community on State Highway 2 as you go down to Karakia, and I travelled there last weekend, is the timers of the traffic lights, so that you know how long you're going to be waiting. And some of the feedback we've had is that that's useful in some of the places, especially for businesses that are trying to get from A to B, or anybody who's travelling up the coast, you're trying to get here for appointments. So knowing how long you're sitting at a lights is helpful.
Yeah, we can take that feedback away. Yeah. We also, NZTA also has regular freight forums with local industry about upcoming work. We had one this week that was postponed, but yeah, so we try and keep the industry informed through other channels as well.
Just manages frustration.
Councillor Tupou.
Thank you both for coming. And thank you for your comments with regard to strengthening or shoring up the health and safety of our workers along our waterways. I'd like to add to that, to also have a thought towards the cultural health and safety. Given the areas where the work's been undertaken, the sacredness of the rivers, the sacredness of the land adjacent to those rivers, and given the changes that have happened to the waterways and the landscape surrounding, does further encroach onto some very significant cultural sites, and we're asking our contractors to venture into those places. and just having some thought to what culturally might be significant in that realm. Good to see you are engaging with our smaller communities, and just put those see them about the cultural significance of the areas that the work has been undertaken. So appropriate cultural intervention when necessary to be offered to help support our workers.
Yeah, so we've got one thing we're doing is we're working closely with all of our local media and resourcing positions so that they can resource kaitiaki and cultural monitors to help address those very matters and identify areas of cultural concern and also be on site during construction.
You want to go to the next step?
So this slide sort of outlines where we're at with the number, what our forecast is for the number of active design and construction projects. So the key ones here is the dark blue and the dark orange are the construction, number of sites in construction. And we'll see that in July, that number has squeezed up a bit in those construction. It's sort of mostly just a natural sort of attrition where we don't open up a lot of sites through winter. And you'll see once we get into later August and September, that number expands. We have a number of sites that will be being held over until the weather is more suitable for that type of construction. Our design process is starting to wind down as we get in completion of sites through that process, and it sort of tails off. This tail off sort of goes through to December 25, but we've got a few projects that will continue through to mid-2026 in Waikato Gorge Online Bridge, also in Gorge works. This is just a more detailed view of that with some individual sites. The one group of sites that are missing from this because they haven't been programmed yet are the Mangahuini Gorge works. There are a couple of sites in there, but there will be more work. It just hasn't got to the stage where it can be programmed yet because we're still working through that change since that funding decision. So recovery work in May, June, we completed 8 sites, 6 new sites started, 5 new recovery sites planned to get underway in July, and the Toga Hill 9 main projects from mid-2024 to stabilise the road and also through there, only focusing on drainage works and movements. So we're 2 sites have been completed. So Taitanui Bridge repair to the south of Gisborne, and Moloaitaha Bridge Girls both to the south out past Muruwai, and Waimakaya Bridge scour protection at Toga Hill has 2 of the 9 sites underway. One of those sites is actually just north of the Toga Hill near the Karakia turn off. So with 35, Mangatuna River Slip has been completed. Urban air shutting program has been completed. Springs dropout in Awatiri. It's just one of the many sites on that hill. Turitoka Hill erosion is now complete too. And Mangatuna Culvert scour is underway currently. M&O, so for the 23-24 financial year, M&O had quite an elevated budget, which is all associated with pipeline and related works. And this financial year that we're now for 24 and 25, those budgets have now returned to their normal level. For M&O, so tricks, improving the strength of the road network. So with the aim of less time to reopen roads after the events. Again, a big focus on local contractors. So for our recent weather event, the way we set up our network there was that it was split into different sections. The next section was looked after by a local contractor, and they had responsibility to provide patrols, to identify what issues there are, assess damage, and then provide response. And that was a bit of a change to what we've done previously. Most issues were pretty straightforward in the recent events. A lot of wind damage, trees, and a few overslips and underslips, but not to the level that we've previously had. So we are getting some progress in that regards.
A number of families talk about how that last weather event, there was a subsequent one shortly after, I think up our end we got it 26th of June, and then we had another bit of rain come through, where their driveways were taken out, and they're on State Highway 35. Can you explain the process for if your driveway is taken out, your culvert's taken out, whose responsibility is it to replace that? And is there any support from ZTA to have that replaced?
Yeah, we've done quite a bit of roadside drainage in the last sort of 3 months of the previous financial year. We'll have to take that one away and follow up, because it's not my usual area.
And I'm sorry, supplementary. And if there's, you guys are cleaning, on the 35 there's obvious places where there are flooding happens regularly. If it's a result of poor drainage on someone's land, is that a clear conversation that happens with you guys and the landowners to stop the flooding that's coming onto the 35, or how does that work?
Yeah, a lot of that falls more into resilience than recovery.
Okay.
So we had, in some of those corridor business cases that had been prepared, we had identified a lot of areas like that where we needed to work with landowners, not just on drainage issues, but also slope stability and stuff. We road through the hillside, but we have landowners either side that we need to work with. So yeah, in those circumstances, we would work with the landowners, but they fall into the resilience and rebuild more so than.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
So core recovery scope. We've got an example there on the right of before and after. This site is on the banks of the Wairau River, just works that are being undertaken. A lot of it is underslips, overslips, some rock scaling. That's just removing loose rock from slopes so it can come down in a controlled manner. Some retaining walls and resurfacing. With the recovery, its aim is to return the highways to 2 lanes on its current alignment, so which does limit some of that outside of the current corridor. All of the scope pre-existed before the budget 2024 announcement. Bridge on 735. So we're continuing to engage with iwi partners and key stakeholders on the construction process there. We've had some site visits with Arata Limited in recent weeks to undertake some early investigations. That's to get some geotech work and look at the abutments of the whole bridge. The scope is accounted for in that total recovery funding. It's quite a decent chunk of that funding. And we have gone through a reset on that project too. We were previously looking at replacing the 2 bridges, but with some more complexities that came in with that around time and cost and budget 2024 decisions, we reset that into a single bridge replacement, which will free up some costs for elsewhere on the network.
Do you have a time frame on when that work will start?
I think the slide that we provided there does have January 2024 looking at construction start.
When we coming, okay, thank you.
Sorry, just
2025, sorry.
Just in terms of Hiku, I liked the I hear in regards to budget 2024 budget constraints about having to, like I've said on your last slide, right size not only the team but also the program of works. You did allude to another funding drop of some sort possibly in November. Will the second bridge or the fullness of that original Hikuwai project be able to then maybe done with whatever happens in November?
September.
September.
Sorry. So what I'm hearing from you is correct, is that one of the bridges will be done with Hikuwai, the other, like there was going to be a big, the other will just stay the same.
Number 2 bridge will remain in place, and the number 1 will be rebuilt.
Yes, we were looking to raise Hikuwai 1, which meant that we would have to raise it. And then, I guess where we were with trying to provide improved resilience, that's the headspace we're in. That's changed with Budget 24 announcement, and we've had discussions with stakeholders better to keep that as one bridge and spend the money elsewhere, basically.
Yeah. It's just that, like, I guess to provide the caveat, I drive up 35 often, and I drive out 2 towards Portsaki often, and I do see the program of works and things being rolled out, and it's really great. But as I drive over them, I wonder the compromises that we've had to make due to budgetary constraints. And again, no shade on how that has happened. We need the help here most, right? But I think about the next iteration of council and maybe 1 or 2 iterations past that, if they'll be sitting in the exact same position we were in 2024. Like, great for now, awesome. But yeah, that's just my concern there. Sorry?
It's a valid concern. I mean, we are, our remit, our scope is to return the state highway 2 lanes largely in the like position it is now. So we were, at the outset, we were much different. We were looking for funding for realignments and enhancements to the network all over the coast, from Hawke's Bay, from Hastings all the way up 35, but that's not where we are now. The next slide.
I've just got something to
sorry.
first.
Yeah, just saying that you're rescoping the Hikuwai Bridge. The original price estimate that came out to replace the 2 bridges was 82 million, I think it was put out. That was obviously made up of the cost of one bridge and the other one put together. Why now do we have to rescope this bridge? Isn't it? Shouldn't we be able to tell us what that bridge, price of that bridge is?
It's probably about 55 million.
One bridge.
Would be the same with the bridge of Waikari Gorge if we were to put one in. Same sort of thing. Modern standards.
Just seems exorbitant.
Massively deep piles.
There's been some quite big changes in the last year in the seismic design requirements and things like that, and it all adds up to being quite high costs. Yeah. So, we've got 40 metres of sediment to pile through on that location, which isn't cheap to do. But, even those piles do make the bridge much stronger than the previous design, which wasn't. We never thought of that there would be the level of debris in the catchment at that stage when that was built. So.
Yeah. No, I just like, to be honest, I'll be upfront with we as councils. Might be on my own here, but we've been getting it in the ear around this whole trek thing. Education that's been out there. We've got contractors coming up at us going, where's all this work we were promised? Because it was a thing people, the amount of staff that were employed, 600 odd staff, we're struggling to actually be able to tell them. We're not getting a lot of communication. We haven't had a lot of communication from you to keep us up to date so we can actually answer some of these questions. So I think, you know, there's a lot of work to do as far as communication goes. You know, we're getting it in the ear, and there's stuff out past Muriwai there. Supposedly had a passing bay that was being built, and it's been bought off farmer land that's been put up, and it's not a passing lane at all. It's no different than what the road was before. $2 million.
Yeah, that was one of the PGF projects that pre-existing to the cyclones and Trek, so it's NZTA Trek, not delivered by Trek.
Delivered by Trek, that one?
No. There were some projects in the Tairāwhiti roping package that were still active when the cyclone hit, and they needed to be delivered. The funding stayed, so there was some passing opportunities. They're almost all complete now, with the exception of Busby's Hill, which is still in construction.
Outside of Trek.
Yeah, as well as resilience improvements, the Turihow Point rock wall, as well as the Busby's Hill slope stabilisation. That's also outside of Trek.
Okay, we're aware of the noise around the costs of Acknowledgments Bridge. You know, we've had with estimates, which we've compared with ours. And when if you just price the bridge on its own as a local steelwork supplier, you'll just price the bridge. You haven't brought it to site. You haven't done the earthworks. You haven't applied the site management. You haven't applied, you know, all of the transportation costs and all those things that are associated. By the time you add all that on, we agree with the costs that are being provided for the bridge as a standalone item. You've still got to build it.
Right, moving on.
I was just going to link to this slide, because in reducing that scope at we hope to spend money elsewhere, i.e. we would really like to spend at Rototahi and these bits of stuff. It says here that they aren't currently unfunded. What that actually means is if we can afford them, we will do them. Right? The funding is what it is. But if we spend too much elsewhere, we won't be able to afford those two. So that's actually what that unfunded means.
Improvement in these bids that would be just life changing for the whānau.
Yeah, we're in close communication with the suppose the iwi representatives that are speaking for that community.
Everything we can to squeeze those two into our program.
Alliance rights, just nicely to the right sizing of the alliance and pipeline. So yeah, that's the work that we're going through at the moment, is right sizing the alliance to the program that we have ahead of us. If we had secured the funding for those business cases, we would have been looking at a program in the billions of dollars, and now we've got $602 million, I think it is. So we obviously need to right size all of our management and overhead to fit that. And the more we can squeeze there, the more likely we are to get the likes of Nesbitt's and Rototahi across the line for construction. Local commitment to date, we've got 80% recovery work being completed by local contractors. That excludes local Downer, Fulton Hogan and Higgins staff. So yeah, it's a lot of that money is staying in this community and similar in Hawke's Bay. And we're committed to recovery by local suppliers. And the current focus on confirming ongoing pipeline and recovery work and providing some information to give those suppliers an idea of what's coming up. So that's all of our slides.
Well, thanks for that. Is there anything further from
Yeah, one question. You guys are road builders and you're building resilience. No resilience will accommodate bad management. And that's usually where the fail occurs. Can you guys give policymakers to try and improve our maintenance?
probably a question for our policy people in NTA. And those conversations are happening with NTA and policy makers.
Just one more thing came to mind around, you mentioned about the Manahoini, the culverts being big enough to take the load of the water, but not the silt and everything that's coming through. So as part of the plan to keep an eye on that after every heavy rain event like we've got now.
Or before them. Or before the event.
Yeah, before the event.
Yep.
Is that in your...
Yeah, it's standard practice for the maintenance team to instruct crews to go out and check, especially key critical culverts that we know have regular issues. Yeah, we have upgraded one culvert prior to Cyclone Gabriel through the, just on the Taikona Bay end of the Mangawini Gorge, where we had a lot of issues following March 22. And that performed really well through the Cyclone Gabriel and following events. So we sort of know what can work. And it's just a matter of trying to
Supplementary, I know that you know, there's a lot of rain fatigue, especially around Taikona Bay communities, and not fatigue, anxiety. Times of rain, which is coming every couple of weeks at the moment, weather events. Unless the van comes out to communities, because I used to keep the newsletters, they're really good, they came out quite regularly, but as Rob said, it seems to have dried up a little bit. In terms of the stability, is there any, can we get any, I guess, alleviate some of that anxiety?
Yes. So
something specifically prepared on that, constant, so we can...
Yeah, we have prepared something, I'm not sure if it's been released yet, but what we can share is that the geotechnical advice that we've got is that the large landslide in Mangawini Gorge is largely stable. There's a little bit of stuff happening at the top end, but not affecting the overall stability of it. Expectations is that that will remain stable, as the 1942 slip that was much larger, that happened right next to it, occurred, so that's all covered in vegetation now and is as stable as anything else can be in that gorge. We'll still see a little bit of erosion of the toe as the river naturally widens itself out into its, you know, roughly probably what the previous width was. But yeah, we don't have high concerns about its stability.
Thank you.
Right, well, that's been great, thanks very much.
Sorry, through you, Chair. Lisa Mole from NZ.
Sorry, kia ora everyone. Apologies, I stepped in a bit late. I'm Lisa Mully, the Regional Manager for System Design, standing in for Linda, and I was just going to note that a few of the things that I've heard kind of resonate with me is that we need to get a little bit better in the communication space. So Scott, I think that's an action for you and I to take away to go back to the team. I know that there's a bit of a backlog we have a lot of content, it just hasn't been pushed out. And I'm aware that there's been a bit of a lull in the communication since the minister's announcement and where we are now. So we'll just take that action on board, and thank you for that feedback.
Thank you. Lisa? Yep. All right. Okay, recommendations on page 60, and it's just a noting report. Moved by Councillor Gregory, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We can say this meeting's closed.
If I'm lucky.
And we do have two public items. Three.
Before I turn off the live stream.
Oh, I move.
Councillor Gregory moving to public inclusion. All those in favour? Aye.